So, April 3rd, 2024. Tell us what happened.
Um, well, that is when I. So me telling the story on what happened on that day.
Or what
Um,
you've heard that happened.
so as far as April 3rd of 2024, like yeah, I can't tell a story of everything that went on, but 40% of the story only I remember.
Right.
30 to 40% only
Right.
I remember.
Okay.
40 to 60% is on the other end. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? So I don't. It's just a blur.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
of certain things that happen. But so basically that day, um, well, I'm gonna start. I sort of got to start from like 2 days before that
Okay.
to make it make sense.
Right.
Um, so my grandma had just passed away. She passed away on the 1st of April, um, which she had been going through dialysis and a bunch of different other stuff she was going through and in and out of the hospital. I'll never forget the day she passed away. Uh, well, me and Cody woke up that morning and we were going to go. We were laying blocks. We were underpinning this house, and me and Cody left that morning to go do it. When we pulled into the driveway of getting ready to go to work this day, to start, we pulled in the driveway and we're an hour and 30 minutes away from the house. Like we're in Dahlonega,
Okay.
way up there. Um, Me and him had just pulled in, and this was basically one of our first days on this job where like we could lay all the blocks and get it out the way, and the only thing we had to do was come back for one more day to finish it. So we went there, did that, but we get the phone call while we're at work. We're at work and we had just got there, like pulled into the driveway, just got there. We're parking, so we're taking the cement mixer off the truck when I get the phone call. So Cody's out the truck, I'm in the truck on the phone. I'm just like, hey, yo, what's going on? Because I had missed calls. Cody's girlfriend, my cousin, she called me. My mom had done called me. Um, and I think one of my sisters had done called me too. I can't remember, but I know them two called me.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just like, hey, um, Nanny's on life support at this point. Y'all come see her, say your last words. That way we can, before we pull the plug, like, y'all come down here. Um, I don't know. That's just not something that's set easy with me. So we didn't go. We didn't go to the hospital, which is I'm not good with funerals. I'm not really. I don't like being around. Not saying I don't like being around dead bodies. That's not the issue. It's just like when I see somebody that I care about laying in a casket, and you gotta go see the body. You gotta do. It's just like it doesn't sit well with me. So we didn't go. I get home that day. My mom's in the yard with one of my cousins on my mom's side. Um, so they're in the yard. We're parking the truck. We're taking the cement mixer off. We're taking all this stuff off. And my mom was telling me, she was just like, it wasn't an argument. It wasn't an argument or what, nothing like that. But it was basically just like a little small, simple disagreement. Like she told me, she was just like, hey, y'all y'all think y'all are so busy that you can't come to the hospital. You should have came to the hospital. And I was just like, why do I want to come to the hospital and see a dead body, you know? And she was just like, that's besides the point, that's not what I'm saying. She was just telling me a bunch of different things that I should have listened to. But I remember telling her then, I was just like, I don't care what you're saying. This is what I told her. I was just like, I don't care what you're saying because I don't like to see bodies. I don't like to see someone who can't talk. Yeah, they have a heartbeat. Yeah, they're have a function of breathing, but they're being helped with that function of breathing. So I'm telling her how I don't like seeing this. I don't want to be around that. I don't want to do this. And I basically told her I don't want to keep hearing about not coming to this hospital. About seeing my grandma in the situation that she was in. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. So we went back and forth about that, and that day at so much, and she was all right. You know, like I said what I said. You said what you said, but you should have been there. And I was just like, well, I wasn't. So you know, it just was what it was. She was, and then she told me then she was just like, well, tomorrow y'all aren't going to work because y'all have to help my dad do this. Like my mom's dad, my granddad. She was like, y'all have to help my dad do this. Go get his new furniture because they had ordered furniture before my grandma passed away.
Right.
It just hadn't got to the building yet.
Okay.
So he was like, you got to go do this. So the next day we took off, helped my granddad do his stuff. But it's just like it's funny because me and Cody had a conversation after my mom told me that. It was like, y'all should have came to the hospital. Y'all should have did this. Like we felt like we were wrong for it, you know. Well, not saying that we felt like we were wrong. We didn't care that we were looked at as wrong, if that makes sense.
Okay.
We didn't care.
Okay.
We were just like, man, we looked at it as like, man, it could happen again, and we wouldn't do it.
Right.
That's the way we looked at it. We was like, man, that could happen again right now. We're not going to the hospital. It's not happening.
Yeah.
We don't want to be a part of that. But me and Cody talked about that day when my mom got on us and told us that. The next day when we were helping my granddad get his furniture in and all this stuff, my mom was there helping us. And like it was nicely, like everything was nice. But like every time me and Cody were away from my mom, it's like we would bring up every now and then, not every time, but just like every now and then we would bring up the fact that just like, man, why we should have went to the hospital, like this and that. So like in my gut, when I look at it now, I feel like something telling me you should have been at that hospital or you
Right.
should have just went. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? But then the next day was the day when I had this wreck. So me, Cody, go to work. So my grandma died. We were at work. We was, you know, we got the call. We didn't go. The next day we helped my granddad get all his stuff, his furniture and stuff in the house. Then the next day we went to work to finish this job. Then when we get home, we were all going to my granddad's house to hang out, have a cookout, and hang around up there.
Okay.
So we did go to work that day. Me, Cody, and another one of my cousins, Montel. We were all together at work, which is the day I had this wreck. So this is the part where I say like I only remember
Yeah.
certain much of it. Like I don't remember the drive to work that morning.
Okay.
I don't remember the drive to work that morning, which is something I usually remember, you know. I don't remember the drive to work, but I could tell you where we were at.
Okay.
Like, I could drive you to that spot right now, but I don't remember
Right.
driving there. I remember bits and pieces about being on the job. Like when we were out there that day, I remember bits and pieces. Like I know me, Montel, and Cody were together.
Right.
And I know I was there finishing laying the blocks that day. And that was it. And like everything else just came out the way it came. Like I know what was going on. I remember who was there and all that. But leaving from that job, going home, there's literally one crazy thing I can remember. Stopping at the liquor store,
Yeah.
you know, to drink,
Yeah.
to finish drink, like to drink on the way home. So like we finished this bottle before we even got home, you know. And then we get home and drink even more, you know, just continue drinking. But the only thing I remember about driving home, like I was saying, is stopping at
Yeah.
the liquor store
Yeah.
and drinking. So like, I don't remember the ride home. I don't even remember passing the bottle around drinking it. But we got drunk. So from there, everything else is what's been told to me.
Okay.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
So apparently we get home. When we get home, you know, we're going to my granddad's house. That's the plan. But at the little man cave at my parents' house, we were up there throwing darts, throwing darts on a little dartboard, and doing those things. We were up there playing darts and hanging around. Before we went to my granddad's house, that's when I went back down the hill, changed clothes, brought my dog up there with me, put her on back of the truck. Cody got on back of the truck. My dad was in the truck, and they were taking this little fryer that we were gonna cook on. They were taking it up there to my granddad's house, and that's apparently when I hopped on the 4-wheeler. I hopped on the 4-wheeler and drove it to my granddad's house. And because we were looking for a pot.
Mm-hmm.
We were looking for a pot we had one big pot in my house. The other pot that we had a crack in it, so it couldn't hold oil. So we were looking to see if my granddad had a pot the size. Me and Cody went up there looking for this pot. We found the pot, but nobody else is up there yet.
Okay.
My mom went in there with the food for us to cook. My mom was still at the store. Cody's girl, my cousin, she wasn't there. None of the other grandkids was there. Me and Cody were the only ones there, besides my uncle that was, outside or whatever.
Yeah.
So me and Cody was just like, hey, until they get here, let's just ride over to Montel's house, because my dad had just took Montel home. Montel stays right around the corner on the dirt road.
Okay.
So me and Cody hop on the 4-wheeler to go to Montel's house, and me drunk, driving crazy on this 4-wheeler, driving crazy. Me and Cody were on the 4-wheeler back to back, so I'm driving, and then Cody's on the back, facing back. So our backs are up against each other.
Yeah.
Both our backs, and he's holding on to the rails like this while I'm riding, and he was telling me how I had been driving crazy that day on the 4-wheeler anyway. So I've been driving crazy that day on the 4-wheeler, and he was telling me how crazy it was, how he's never he was telling me he can't really think of any time that he's been on there with me when we were driving that crazy. We always drove crazy, but he was like, man, I was driving crazy that day. He tell me now, he'd be like, hey bro, I don't know what you got going on, but hey, that day was crazy.
Yeah.
I'd be like, what you mean? He'd be like, man, the way you turned that corner, the way you was driving, man, I don't know what you had going on. And I was like, it's funny, we laugh at it now. We laugh at it so hard now. Me and him literally sit and laugh. But he was telling me, he was like, man, you was driving crazy, man. And he was like, I turned around like this and said something to you. He was like, and you turned around and looked at me. Me and him both were looking at each other. And that's something that we always do anyway when we're cracking jokes, when we're laughing and stuff. Okay. He was just like, I turned around and looked at him, and I'm laughing. We're both looking at each other, but I'm still driving. And at the end of our road, it's a little curve, you know what I'm saying, that goes in. So, I'm looking at him, and I'm laughing. And I ended up, while I'm looking at him, I pulled a little bit, and that's when we start flipping. But he flipped off before me. He fell off the 4-wheeler before I did. And when he fell off, he hit the ground and broke his elbow, his arm like that. But the issue with me, they say, is when the 4-wheeler flipped, I never let it go. I kept holding on to it. So when I first, boom, hit the ground, I hit the ground on my head on the asphalt. When I hit the ground on the asphalt, they say I never rolled, I never flipped, I never nothing. I hit the ground and literally just slid. I was out. Yeah. Which is all this is just words to me.
Did they say the 4-wheel's on top of you?
No, the 4-wheeler went on top of me. The 4-wheeler actually flipped from about here to where my hat is. Okay. I was laid out on the ground, and it was out over in the bushes. Okay. All tore up.
And Cody made the phone calls, right?
Yeah, so he made the phone call to my mom. Mm-hmm. He made the phone call to my mom, let her know what was going on. I want to say he called Brittany, his girl. That's when they all came to the end of the road and seen me in the situation I was in. And they said blood was coming out of my ears, my nose, my eyes were really, just kept flickering, and they were really blew up. But that's when they called the ambulance to take me where I was going. They were questioning about taking me to Gainesville at first, but I want to say Piedmont was, it was closer, which it is closer, but that's one thing they decided then. They took me to Piedmont, had my surgery that night. But when they got there, they was telling my parents, when my parents got there and when they were, inspecting me, figuring out what was going on, that's when they told my parents that they have to do surgery right now, and they were getting my parents' approval. Really, so apparently, which I don't know, I'm sure you would be able to tell me about this if I don't know. But they say that the approval usually has to come from the person that they're giving surgery to. Mm-hmm. But I'm out, I'm out, I'm knocked out, I can't sign no paper, so they had to get the approval from my parents. Yeah, and they had to get the approval from my parents right then, because if they didn't get it right then I was gonna die. You know.
Yeah.
So what's even more crazy about this, like that's not to me, that's not nothing that bothers me or nothing like that. It's actually like I look at it, I was like, wow, blessed that this guy get to, see my parents as my parents this. But the main part that is like very significant to me is that like I didn't like 2 days before when my grandma was in the hospital. I don't know, this might trip you out a little bit. It's crazy. So like 2 days before when I didn't go to the hospital to see my grandma, I got, I had this wreck, got sent to the hospital, which I don't know, I was asleep, but there were over 70 people, my friends and family, that came to the emergency room while I was in the hospital.
Yeah.
The room, the ICU room that they put me in after surgery was the same room that my grandma died in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Same room she died in when she was in the hospital 2 days before I had this wreck. So when they told me to come see her, like all this stuff, I didn't go. I ended up in the hospital, and there's 60, 70 people here.
Yeah.
Waiting to find out what's going to happen to me, waiting to find out what's going on with me. And then I ended up getting put in the same ICU room that she was in.
Wow.
And everybody coming there to see you, they pray for you, they, they this and this and that. But it's just crazy. I think back on it, I'm just like, man, there's obviously a reason for everything, but it's just like, man, it's crazy that like I wouldn't go see her.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't go see her. But then I end up in the same room that she was in, that she died in.
Yeah.
So I look at it and I'm just like, man, things coming back around full circle and tell you something, that you obviously should have the responsibility of doing instead of just saying no.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that really changed a lot of different looks for me.
Right.
With people that I love, people that I'm close to that are injured or anything happened to them, because I used to be real questionable about going to go see certain stuff, but just like I done got to the point now where it's just like there really ain't even a question about it.
Yeah.
Something happened, just go do it.
Yeah.
Handle
Now
it.
you have empathy now
Oh yeah.
because you've been there.
Oh yeah. Because it's just like I've never been in no. Not saying that I've never had family in a position where just like they haven't, like they've been in a position, but just like I've never been in a position to be a part of like 50, 60 people waiting in a room to see what's going on with somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, if all these people are here for you and all these people done filled up this, like it was so many people there in the emergency room, they couldn't even sit in the emergency room no more. They had to shift them from the emergency room to a whole different part of the hospital.
Wow.
So it was just crazy, just like hearing about all that. And then when I wake up and finally can see my phone again, when I cut my phone on, all the messages going off, all the stuff on Facebook that's being seen, like being tagged, and all this stuff is just like, man.
Well, I can remember, the next day, Pastor Ryden called me, and he was telling me about, you had the wreck and everything, and your dad wanted him to come and pray. And they were talking about, thought you had, severe brain damage.
Right.
And
So the surgery was to remove part of your skull to relieve the pressure because of the swelling of your brain.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, I have to find out. I don't even know. I've been and said something wrong. So
Well, no, that's okay. I was just going to say
But yeah, that part that
because
you
your
just
brain
asked,
was swelling
that
so
part
much.
that you just asked, yeah.
And then Antonio sees you.
yeah, well, so he calls me and said, we got to get there, as soon as possible. He was at work and I was at work. And I called him right back and I was like, hey, do you think it might be best we go home and change and then, take showers and then come? And he was like, no, we got to get there as soon as we can, because they don't think he's going to make it.
Right.
And so I get off, he gets off, and we meet at the hospital. And there's a good bit of people, immediate family. And we walk in the room, and it was like I wasn't expecting to see what I saw.
Right.
And it was just like you know, your head was like, I mean, really, really big, and just all the stuff they had on you, and I could see blood coming out of your ears and tube coming from the back of the head. You know, I think they were draining for the pressure, and it was. I mean, it was horrifying. Just, you know, I'd never really seen something like that close up,
Right.
and it was like I couldn't even look. You know, as we're praying, and it was just like, because when I looked, it was just like all I could see was, you know, it's almost like death.
Right.
You know, I mean, it was just, you know, I mean, it was bad.
Right.
And I just had to close my eyes and pray. And we prayed in there for a couple minutes, about 5-10 minutes, prayed. And then we came out, and I can remember telling your dad, you can't go by what you see.
Right.
You just got to trust and believe God.
Right.
Because looking at you, it was just like, it was almost like no hope. And I was just, you can't go by what you see.
Right.
You just got to pray. And then, you know, we, you know, talked to your dad a little bit, and then we left. And, you know, and it wasn't good. But then the days, you know, leading up to.
And then the surgeons told your parents at that point, if you did survive, and each day would, you know, the percentage of survival was a little bit better. But then they said, even if you did survive, what did they say? Just probably not walk or talk? Or
Yeah,
what
it
were
was it was a lot of different things. From my understanding, they never really came out and fully said that I wouldn't be able to do this, wouldn't be able to do that. It was just a high possibility that I wouldn't, and then it was other things of like, not symptoms, but just like things that just like could be questionable about me doing again. So that was the main thing. But the main things that it was so when you damage the left side of your brain is opposite functioning with your body. Left side of your brain functions the right side of your body. Right side of your brain functions the left side of your body. I damaged the left side of my brain, so they were somewhat like giving you the understanding of just like what on your right side could be a problem. And they let me know as far as like even with the talking, just like, oh, you know, his voice might come back, it might not, you know, because I remember waking up not having my voice, which I say I remember waking up not having my voice. I remember not having my voice, not just waking up. It's not like when I first woke up out of medical coma. It's not like when I first woke up, I knew I wasn't talking. When I first woke up out of medical coma, I thought I was talking.
And how many days was that?
In medical coma?
Yeah.
Or just...
The coma was at least 7?
My medical
7?
coma was like 13 days.
Okay. And every time they try to decrease the medication, I think you would start having tremors, and so they would try to...
I think my mom told them to take me off some medication because of like the drugs and stuff that they had me on. I was just acting a little bit different off of it, apparently.
Yeah.
Which, like, I don't know, I was out. But that's when things just started changing. They say I started getting a lot different then, as far as like waking up. That's when I started acting.
So for 13 days, your parents still don't know what you're going to be like when you wake up, because you were fully... Okay.
Didn't know nothing. Nothing. When I first woke up, I remember, so my ex-girlfriend, she lives in Florida now, but she actually flew here. And she's the first one I remember waking up seeing. Like, even though my mom, dad been there this whole time, everybody's been there. She's the first one I remember actually opening my eyes, seeing, that I can physically remember opening my eyes, seeing. So I remember seeing her, but I still, like, even still to this day, which I know it didn't happen, obviously, but still to this day, I feel like me and her had a conversation. Me, her, and like one other person that was there. I feel like we had a conversation. Like, there was things we were saying, like how we're sitting here talking now.
Yeah.
I literally feel like there was a voice coming out of my mouth. But then, like, she left, went back home, and then I was, you know, still in and out of sleep a lot. after that, I remember waking up one day, being in the room with my mom, a couple other people, they were in the room, and I remember waking up and trying to say something. Like, I was trying to say something, but just like that's when I realized I can't talk no more. Cause like there was no voice coming out.
Right.
So like I'm talking and they're looking at me shaking their head, and I'm sitting there trying to say something. They're just like, nah. They would tell me nah. They would like tell me be quiet. They'd be like, quit trying to talk. You're all right. And then they give me a little pencil on a marker on this board and tell me to write. What you trying to say? Just write it down. I'm just like, write it down. I'm talking. So that's when I was telling my mama. I remember telling her, like, pointing to my throat. I remember touching right here on my throat, being like, I can't talk. You know, that's what I was telling her. Just like, I can't talk. And then she was just like, And then after she asked me how like 2 times, I basically like got mad because it's just like I don't want to keep. I felt like I was repeating myself, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't want to keep repeating myself. So I remember just laying back like this, eyes closed. Sometimes I open my eyes and just literally just stare at one spot for like the longest. Then the nurse came in, like the doctor or nurse came in, and she was walking by, and that's when I looked at my mom again, and that's when I was just like, hey, get her. I can't talk, this and that. And that's when my mom actually told me, oh, no, you can't talk. Like, your voice, you don't have a voice right now. You know, you got to wait. When she's telling me that, I'm sitting there thinking, like, wait on what? Like, what's going to fix this?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, wait on what? Tell them to come on.
Yeah.
So that's when I started being like, tell the nurse to come here.
Yeah.
Like, if I got to, like, tell them to come here and fix this, because, like, I could have sworn I was talking, like, 2 days before this.
Yeah.
I swear I was talking. I was like, man, I swear I was talking. I was like, man, tell them to come fix this.
Yeah.
This is that. That's when, like, a lot of the movement with my arms, I remember moving my arms, trying to, like, move stuff so I could talk. And that's when my mom, like, grabbed my hand. She made me. She was just like, look, can't talk, can't do this, can't walk right now, just lay down, relax, and all this. That's why I was like, man, that's
Well, I
crazy.
will say, like, so Antonio saw you on the 4th, and then we were out of town that weekend, but I think we came to see you Sunday. So that would have been the 7th. And so,
now, before that, I think I went again.
but this is the first time I saw you was on, I think it was on the 7th.
I'm gonna say this: I went again and we prayed, and you know, I mean, you were still out and all that, and so then we come.
So I kind of stand on one side of you, and Antonio's kind of like you. He doesn't like medical things. He just, he hears certain noises, he's out of there.
And
so they came in, and you were,
well, one time, like, we were praying, we came to pray, and it was just like you had the tube in and all that, and you were like, man, that I couldn't.
he probably ran out of the room.
It was like, it was rough.
But when we were there, so you just had a lot of secretions. And so when you would get excited, you know, you would start breathing heavier, and the nurse would have to come in and suction you out. So,
Well-
but see, we didn't know, hang on, we didn't know that going in the room. So, because all we know is, because, you know, we would try to call your parents, but we just said, let's just leave them alone. They got too much going on. So we really didn't know what had happened. So we walk in the room, and your dad's sitting there, and you had your eyes open, and you watched us walk by. And we said to your dad, did he just watch us? And then you went back out, and then we went around, and we both held your hands, and you squeezed our hands a little bit. And so that was awesome. And so we're like texting everybody. He's responding. He's responding.
And you're like, and you just land in, and you'd follow us. And everywhere we went, your eyes would follow us. And I mean, that was just a miracle of just seeing where you were, and your eyes are open, and you just following us, you know. And it was just like, well, what they gonna do next, you know?
Then the next weekend we came back. I guess it was the next Sunday, and I guess at that time, or maybe it was the next one. It seems like it was. So you were already off all the medication, and you had just gotten out of bed, and so not only were you able to walk, but it was a lot shorter time period than the doctors were going to think. And so your mom, I think, I'll have to remember this. She'll have to remind me, but I think she went out in the hallway to get your doctor, and said, "Hey, come watch this." and you stood up and you walked a couple steps, and then everybody was just blown away. So
Yeah.
that was our perspective. This is kind of what we
It's
saw
funny
happening.
because like looking back at it now, I get a lot of questions on people asking like the difference and like, oh, well, what is it? What has TBI done to you? What has traumatic brain injury done to you? What is like? What do you feel different? What do you this? What do you this and that? Which for everybody is going to be different. Like another person that's had the same injury as I can have a conversation with them. We both have differences, but just like the main thing, not like it's hard to even point out a main thing, that's changed just because like there was so much that I went through during the time that I couldn't do, that I'm functioning doing like I was before I had this accident, just like with walking, talking, being able to lift heavy weight, being able to move around, do certain stuff. It's not nothing that bothers me. It's not nothing that sets back, which is one of the big things that a bunch of people think that you're going to have is like a memory loss. Like people be like, oh, you're not going to remember this. You're not going to remember that. You're not going to remember this. People ask me, do I remember certain stuff? But just like the main thing, I guess I could like, one of the main things I could say, just like the difference is, it's gonna sound crazy to say, but the craziest thing out of this whole situation is like after having a TBI, traumatic brain injuries and surgery and all that stuff, the main thing to understand is that like you actually have a brain, which is a weird thought to some people. They're gonna be like, man, everybody knows you have a brain. You do this, you do that, but it's just like you don't think about your brain at all until you done damaged it, Until you done damaged it, until you move around having to do certain stuff that you have to question yourself, can you do?
Yeah.
You have to question yourself. It's sort of like reteaching yourself your own brain work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Certain things you have to relearn, have to reteach
That
yourself.
came
and all that
naturally
stuff.
before, and now you're having to
like
really think about.
What's crazy is sort of like even with what you just said, like it came naturally before, and like now, yeah, there is certain things that like I have to think about. But there's a lot of things that still come naturally like it did before. But now that it comes naturally now like it did before. Before when it came naturally, I didn't question it. I didn't think about it. It was just like, this is normalcy. Like this is what people do. But now when I do natural instinct stuff, like natural stuff, that instinct, I ask myself, is this natural? Is this something that I knew how to do?
Right.
Is this something that, this and this and that? So when you realize that is a natural thing that naturally happens, it's like you try to think to yourself like, oh, well, how do I not do that?
Yeah.
Or how do I
that's
not
good.
do this?
That's
But
good.
it's natural. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like it's a natural thing. So it's not something that, when you got to use the bathroom or when you got to do this, when you like, not those type of things. Like it's not something that you think about with those functions, this and this and that, but like something that you would naturally grab with your right hand.
Now you say, why do I?
Or something
do
like
that?
you might would
Yeah.
naturally do when you bend over and grab something, or when you're lifting something, when you're moving a certain type of way. It's something you would naturally do. When people ask you questions like, hey, how you feel about this? Or what do you think about that? This and this and that. Like you would normally answer a certain type of way or this and this and that. But like there's a lot more thinking now than it was before on me at
Right,
least.
yeah,
Like on
yeah.
my end. There's a lot more thinking for me than it was before. And when like my thinking, it's not just like thinking as far as like, oh, I don't know, so let me think about it. It's more just like an actual thought of how to continue myself to move forward and to continue to try to help someone else move forward instead of just blurping out some stuff that you think, you know.
So that's my
Well,
next. That's my next question. Is
I'm
just
sorry. I just got to get this out
Oh yeah.
because we're talking, but a lot of people don't understand. They had to cut out a section of your skull,
Right.
and we're in the hospital, and you can see it. Like where the area they cut out,
Right.
and it was a pretty big area, something like this, right? Like
It was the size. It was funny because it was the size of my hand. Well, the size of it was like to hold your hand up. And that's how much of my skull was cut out.
so when we're sitting here talking, we understand that, but you guys out there don't understand. And it was left out for how long?
10 months.
10 months. And so that's it's been major. And I'm sorry. So,
No, you're just on that thought that, people ask you, now you kind of think about things you never thought about. How has this changed you? So, 2 weeks prior or a few weeks prior to the accident, you were thinking about suicide.
Right.
How has this accident in this last year changed you in that way? Do you still think about that? Consider it?
No.
What's changed? What's different?
No. There's a lot of things that come with it that have changed. So it's still hard for me to point out the main thing that's changed it. But the simple fact that it's hard for me to sit here and say that, oh, nobody cares about me. Or nobody cares how I feel. It's hard for me to sit here and say that, this isn't going to work out for me. This isn't going to work out for me. This isn't going to work out for me. So the way I felt before the situation is just like all that feeling has left. And the craziest part about it to me is just that I had to basically be almost dead for me to understand it, instead of just taking the image to look at how I was before I had this wreck, you know what I'm saying, and work on it myself instead of just trying to put it off on somebody else. So the main thing I guess you could say to me for it, or that has changed that, is just not just the thought process, but the understanding and belief of God's work to continue to help move me forward, and that he has people here for me to not necessarily just help me get to that point, but it is to help me get to that point, and to look back in the vision and understand what I went through has helped other people. Because there was this time throughout this whole situation where after I had this wreck and it first happened, I can't tell you how many people, because I don't know. There's so many people that came to me and then told me, even with posts on Facebook, I still sometimes go back and read, because there's so many posts that I was tagged in. I still sometimes go back and read a little bit of them to have that positive feeling of what I went through, not what I've done.
Right.
Because you got things that you do that encourage people to be great. You got things that that you say and move and work, sort of how we're on this podcast right now. Somebody's gonna watch it.
Right.
Hopefully, may God bless a lot of people to watch it, and then bless them to be a whole lot better too as well, and go through and anything that they're struggling with to let it off their back and be able to come forward and be able to find a way for somebody to help them with that and help themselves as well. But there was nothing that I did motivationally to help anyone as far as with this situation, but this situation I went through with me being almost dead, not only has it helped me, but it's helped so many other people to understand not just losing someone, but the fact of what other people go through, and the fact that they can't accept the fact of losing someone. So when I went through the situation and I was out, sleep, I'm in a coma, medical coma, and I don't have no full understanding of what's going on. I've had so many people tell me that they haven't prayed in years, and the day that I had that wreck, that was their first time praying in years.
Wow.
There's some people who I know 2 people tell me that, hey man, that was my first time praying. Hearing about you having, when I heard you had that wreck and they thought you was dead, that was my first time praying. But there's countless of people. Yeah. I know it about 5 to 10 for sure right now that's told me that they haven't prayed in years.
Yeah. And I think
so it's one, I don't mean to cut you off, but just that situation in itself is just what helps me understand the point of my meaning to not just be here, but be here and continue to, do what I do, obviously. And in a better way though. Not just do what you do and not have a reason for it, but you do what you people, you still go to work. Yeah, you still make money. Yeah, you still, have your relationships with people, but understand that you at first have your relationship with God as well. That way you can understand how to help these people, understand how to express yourself and not be rude to these people for them to have help as well. So it's just a lot of different situations that's pushed me to the point to understand it. Just like, hey, you can't never just end it.
Yeah. And I think one thing that you pointed out, several different times as we've talked, there was another person that had the same accident.
Yeah.
Can you shed a little light on that?
Oh yeah. The girl, it was a girl, younger than me. So like on April 3rd, I had this wreck on April the 3rd. Damage to my brain, all this stuff. The next day, so basically, I had the wreck on the 3rd. The girl had it on the 4th or that night or whatever. I'm wearing no helmet. She's wearing a helmet. She had the same wreck I had on a 4-wheeler, everything. The same doctor that did my surgery, had to go tell her family that there was nothing he could do for her. Nothing, because her brain was damaged so bad that there was nothing they could do. So she was just gonna be a vegetable.
Yeah.
They either pull the plug or
Yeah.
it's a vegetable that you got. So in that situation, that's just man, it sticks out to me. Sticks with me every day. I get a little bit of, not even a little bit. I get the emotion for her family, just because it could be mine.
Right.
The fact that I made it through that, was in that room and sat in that situation, just crazy that a girl younger than me, it's crazy to think that a girl younger than me didn't make it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then the fact that just as much as evil and as much bad things as I've done, that I made it.
Yeah.
So it's crazy because it's that's one thing I used to question myself about. I used to question myself and be like, man, I get lucky to get more chances, you know what I'm saying, than a person that's younger than me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She could have lived it out. She could have been all right, found her way, to the end, and made it through,
Yeah.
But that's one thing I look at. I just wonder. I'll be like, man, I wonder if her life was, I just wonder if her life was, just as good as mine. You know what I'm saying? Or if she went through something bad that was holding her back. So I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
It's not something that we're gonna know.
Right.
But it's just something that crosses my mind that I think about, to try to think, just like, hey, it's a crazy situation, that this little girl lost her life.
Yeah.
The same way that I could have lost mine. It's sort of, I look into it with situations, sort of like when you get in a car, the passenger got on a seatbelt. Well, the driver got on a seatbelt, but the passenger don't. Have a car accident. The one who had on a seatbelt died. But the one who didn't got ejected out the car, hit a tree, hit this and that, still alive. So it's just one of those things that I look at that just it was.
Well, I want you to tell one more story. And I know when I heard this before, you kind of gave the context, you're not really sure who this person was. You don't want to make assumptions of who this person was. But can you tell the story about the man on the tractor?
Yeah, I mean, the way I feel so when I had this wreck. When I had this wreck, there was this from what I was told, there's this guy. We had the wreck. Me and Cody on the side of the road. My mom gets there, and this guy pulls up. An older guy pulls up on a tractor, and he was just there looking over me on the ground, looking over me and Cody, and there were no words said. There were no words said by him. Not from my understanding, he never even said "What's going on? Are y'all all right?" No words were said by him. I feel like, me personally, I feel like there's a reason that guy was there.
And your mom saw him too?
Yeah, everybody seen him.
Okay.
Everybody. My mom, my dad, my cousins that were there, they seen him, all that stuff. The only person that had words with him was my mom. And the only reason she had words with him is because she came out of her mouth first, and that's who he was. She asked him who he was, and all that. I think she asked him, "What is he doing here?" and all that, and he didn't even answer that question. So she didn't know. Like, nobody knew him still to this day. And I've lived on the same road that I live on now for 20 something years, like 20 years, over 20 something years, and I haven't seen this guy again yet.
One, just people don't know the area that you lived in. Everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
In this area, and for them to see this guy, not know him, and it's just like, and you've never seen him again.
I think there's reasons people are sent to look after you for, just to lift you up. You know what I'm saying? To give you the benefit, to help your family, not necessarily just help your family believe, but just like there's a reason that guy was there.
Well, I mean, Psalms and Hebrews, there's a lot of places in the Bible talking about angels.
Yeah, and I feel like he was an angel. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I feel like he was an angel that was sent to, watch over me and watch over us, not just watch over me, but watch over me, Cody, and everybody else in the situation that was going on. He didn't leave till the ambulance left.
Yeah.
And that
He
really
don't know me.
And like you said earlier, God has been glorified in a way in your whole situation where you didn't have anything to do with it. And sometimes that's the best way for God to be glorified. It's like, God, okay, let's say this man was an angel. It's like, y'all had nothing to do with that. You couldn't, ask for an angel to come. It's just like, God just does things like that. God just overshadows you. All those people showing up and praying. And hopefully we'll hear from your mom soon about some of her stories are very good too. But
Well,
and that's
This ain't the last podcast.
well, and just the fact that God has spared your life, and I remember you were talking about in your testimony how now going through what you've gone through, it's causing you to really seek God, reading your Bible, different things like that, to where just trying to get a better understanding.
There's a lot of things you got to go through in life. I feel like people themselves, they got to go through to refine themselves and refine themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to go out and look and realize what you are as a person. And then when you realize what you are as a person, that's when you learn that's when you refine yourself, perfect yourself, which nobody's going to be perfect.
Right.
Nobody's going to be perfect. Nobody is perfect. But it's just the fact that just like anything that you do, you learn how to do it the right way. You learn how to perfect it down to the right way and get it to understanding. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's like you can't tell somebody something that's true that they don't believe if you don't understand it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like this obviously true because we can bring up the facts about it. We can bring up the proof that this is true. But there's somebody out there that don't believe it.
Right.
So, but in order for you to go tell this person that don't believe it that is true, that is real, this and this and that, you can't just walk up talking, man, this is true. This happened. I seen it.
Yeah.
They ain't gonna believe you seen it.
Yeah.
You can show somebody a picture. They don't believe your picture real, but you gotta know how to, once you learn how to perfect something and be able to have to help somebody have an understanding of something, that's when you become a better person yourself. Because not only will you think about how to make this person more understandable, you got to find a way to make yourself understandable.
Yeah.
Well, when you go through things in life, if you go through it well and you come out on the other end a better person, there's a deep change in you. Like, just like God's already given you compassion for people that you didn't have before. Mm-hmm. And that's nothing that we can do in ourselves. Sometimes that's what it takes. We got to go through something and like, oh, wow, I went through this. I can now, God shows you people who you can help, and show that compassion.
And I feel like, me personally, I feel like compassion, like people's idea of compassion, like what you just said is perfect. It's right. Like, on the nail. But I feel like a lot of people's understanding of, compassion for others is just like, oh, I care for this person. Like, oh, I do this. Was like how my compassion that I thought I had for people was just the simple fact that, like, I would do anything for anybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I knew them, they were on the side of the road, needed their tire changed, I'm going to pull over and help them change their tire. If they cold, I'm hot, I give them the shirt off my back. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, like, my compassion was there as far as like in that form.
Yeah.
Of, the show that I care, show that I this, that I that, but just like there's other form. I feel me like there's other forms of compassion to show people than to just help them this and this and that when they're going through different situations. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
So instead of just physically helping somebody, thinking that you're doing something, there's other ways to help them too. Which like mine was just like a physical compassion. Like, oh, this person needs help with this. I'm gonna show up and I'm gonna help them. Oh, this person need this, this, and that. I'll go buy them something to eat. This person need this and that. I'll go buy it. I'll do this. I'll do that. So just like it was like not saying that money was fixing the issue. Like I wasn't not saying that I was using money to fix issues. It was just the fact that just like anything that I could physically do compassionately to help you, then that's what I would do. And I felt like that was enough. Instead of just like somebody could call me and need a compassionate conversation to help them through whatever they're going through. I'm the type. Hey man, I'm getting a phone call. Hold on, I'm getting a phone call. I'll call you back.
You didn't know how to handle it.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's like, hey man, I'm getting a phone call. I'll call you back. Man, I'll hang up.
Yeah.
And put the phone down.
Those are the hard conversations.
So it's just like, where's my compassion really at to really understand and help this person, for anything that's going on instead of just a flat tire.
Yeah.
You could teach a monkey how to change a flat tire. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? You can't teach a monkey how to sit and have a conversation with somebody and help them continue to move forward, which is a lot of things that, like I was saying about refining yourself and having a true live understanding is just like, it's sad that like, not sad, but it's crazy that I had to go through this situation to be able to have this understanding of wanting to do this.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Other than finding it in other ways. Like this basically like sort of like being a vigilantist. You have to have the passion to do it, and get up, like actually get up and move forward to do it. It's not something that you're just gonna like. Some people, they have it in them. They want to do it. They want to reach out to people and help them, find God and have an understanding, have that belief in this and this and that. But you have some people, when you say the word vigilantist, like me, like that used to hear it. I used to be like, man, I don't want to be that guy that gets shined upon.
Oh,
when I go out
evangelism?
Yeah. Like I don't want to be the one to go out and get shined upon for having this conversation with this person and this and that. So, you keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
Except for Wednesday night and Sunday. Which don't make no sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's just like, what am I really, you know what I'm saying, helping someone out? Am I really doing this? Am I really doing that? Which not saying that's the...
No, I mean, it'll be very natural now.
Yeah,
Exactly. Your heart has changed so much where God will
Right.
point out to you people that are hurting and that, and then how you can relate to them on a very, very unique way.
And that's where my compassion really like found a way to change.
Yeah.
Because at first, I didn't care about none of that. You know what I'm saying? Which, like, it's still a battle to, try to talk to everyone about something, because some people, it'll turn into an argument. You know what I'm saying? Well, they'll want to make it turn into an argument, So it's just different ways around trying to figure out how to be that type of person, you know what I'm saying? And work through it versus instead of just keeping quiet, keeping mouth closed, you know what I'm saying, and not say nothing.
Right.
Well, it's an adventure for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
You don't have to learn all right now.
Right.
Well, and I'd like to say, you had, the accident and all that, and then I guess in June, I had surgery to get rid of the prostate cancer and all that. Right. And just seeing you battling and working through the issues and fighting through everything that you fought through, it really helped me, to battle and fight through just recovery and all that. And it was just really encouraging because your situation was a lot worse than mine.
Right.
But seeing you battling and fighting through your parents and, just seeing them, really go the extra mile to help and the prayer and all that, it really encouraged me. And God, it inspired me to really continue to fight and get back to where I could help others. Right. Just watching you, learning how to think again, all these different things. And so I thank God for you.
Oh yeah, I thank God for everything that I went through, the good, the bad, all of it to help me become where I am now. Which is one question I wanted to ask both of y'all is like, I know like when I worked with you, you had a hernia removed.
Oh, the blood clots. And
Yeah,
all
you
that,
had
yeah.
so basically what I'm getting at, so like when I worked with you, you had the hernia removed, you had to have surgery then. Even with prostate cancer, you had to have surgery, you had to that. So you had to go through downtimes. Like you had to go through times where you had to, you know, just the situation where you had no choice but to work on, like, not work on yourself, but be alone and have thoughts in your head. But like basically the question that I want to ask is like, even with both of you, like when he was going through what he was going through, and you being his wife, helping him through these situations, was what would you say? Do you feel like there was something different about yourself after every surgery? Like when you had your hernia removed, and then you had the blood clots and all that stuff. After that situation, did you feel a difference? Like not just a difference physically, but just like about yourself, like movement, or you felt the same, or
Yeah, well, now, like, with so I had hernia surgery, and 3 weeks after that, I had blood clots break loose and almost died, and, filled up my lungs, and I didn't realize how bad it was.
right,
And she helped me navigate the whole situation. She knew I almost died. We went to urgent care. He was like, "Get to the hospital right now. They're going to be
right,
waiting on you." And we got there, and we were there for like the next 3 days. As soon as we walked in the hospital, they asked me my name. They took me straight back. And her, being a nurse, working with, heart patients and all that, she knew exactly what was going on. And it was just amazing what God gave her to really help navigate through that whole time of me being down. Because like when I was down, you guys
right,
you guys took over the business and you guys did all the jobs. I think I was down for anywhere from 4 to 6 months. It and I guess that was totally different than this, as far as dealing with the prostate cancer.
right,
That was, I guess, one of the first times I was down and I couldn't do anything because the heat, the sun. I was on, the medicine, Xarelto, and all these different things, and it was just like, I just, day by day, it helped me to just stop and realize, I could have been dead. I mean, there was times where I'd be even, at night thinking, like when I felt the blood clot,
right,
is this my last day?
yeah,
So it's really helped me to value time more,
yeah,
value the time and the relationships that I have,
right.
to not take them for granted.
And this all of this is all after your surgery of the blood clots and
The blood clots and the hernia surgery.
So we haven't got to the your
Prostate.
cancer, prostate cancer part yet.
And see, the thing with that, it was so different because it was more physical.
Right.
And with that, it was like getting back on your feet, getting back to work and all that. And it was more physical and helping me value time. Like now, if I feel something going on in my body, I'm going to the hospital.
Yeah.
I'm going to get checked.
Right.
I ain't trying.
No questions.
I ain't trying to tough it out. Be the tough guy. No.
Yeah.
If something ain't right, because I told her that morning something's not right, and I gave her the symptoms, and she's like, "Go get your clothes on. I'll meet you at urgent care." And if I wouldn't have said that, because the doctor said, if you wouldn't have came when you did, you wouldn't be here.
Right.
You'd be dead. But just valuing time, relationships, to where it's like, okay, if I gotta go slow, I'm gonna go slow, but I'm just gonna see what God's gonna do in all this.
Right.
And getting back on my feet, but then saying the prostate cancer and this has been more mental because, my job got rid of me like 2 weeks before I had the surgery. So it wasn't like I could get back up and go. It was like, well, I don't have a job now.
Right.
And it's like, and just dealing with the prostate cancer, the whole mental side of manhood. And then this is the side a lot of men don't talk about is the after effects and the mental side. So this has been, I think, a lot harder because I'm dealing with the mental aspects of everything.
With it being harder, do you feel like that's whether like not change you in a bad way, but just change you period? Like with this situation being harder, do you feel like it's changed you as a man?
Oh yeah, because like I preached a sermon, when I was going through this. It's just like suffering in silence, and it was like suffering in a way that I'd never suffered before. And it's like, but God, why do I gotta go through this?
Right.
Why? And it was just like, but as I'm suffering in silence, it was opening me up to be able to feel what other people are feeling, whether it was cancer or just different issues other people go through. It was almost like I can feel their pain, them suffering in silence. And so it's been bad but good because now I can relate to other people.
I don't mean to cut you off, but that's the good and bad that I mean that's been on my side as well.
Yeah.
It's like since I've had this brain damage and all this stuff that's happened, sort of like you were just saying, it's like you have no choice but to give your thought. Not have no choice. We got a choice. It's the right or wrong to do it, but it's just the fact that just like it's like we don't have. It's like automatically we're gonna naturally think about the effects of other people as well instead of just what we didn't pay attention to before. Because like I got brain damage. Like I done had my head hurt. I done broke my legs and stuff like that. But just like I don't care if I see somebody that got poked or stabbed by something or they done fell and hurt themselves, this and this and that. I want to make sure they're all right.
Yeah.
I want to make sure this person is okay.
Yeah.
And that even after they've had surgery, even after they've been to the hospital, this and this and that, let's continue to make sure that person is okay, this and that. Because I've somewhat realized it just like after you've been in the hospital, had surgery, and then got the situation that's damaged fixed, that's when a lot of the depression state is gonna come, the upset state of like trying to figure out what's next. You know what I'm saying? Because sort of like you just said about them, they got rid of you 2 weeks before you had your surgery and stuff, and even beyond that, when you were saying how like you wasn't going to the doctor, but now you would go to the doctor when something happened. You're just hey, I'm going. But before you were just like, nah, I'm, this and this and that. But what made you feel that way as far as like before? When you were saying like, if there was something wrong with me, I was just like, man, I got this. Is it? Do you feel like that's a man thing?
Well, yeah, you just, I'm gonna tough it out. You know, I'm gonna tough it out, and I'll figure a way around it.
And I naturally feel like that's a problem with men.
Yeah, well, we're stubborn. I mean.
Yeah, I feel like that because like,
well,
I mean, there's females that do it too. There are females that they're gonna tell you like, no, I don't want to. I don't feel like going to the doctor. I don't want to this and that. I don't want to do this. But a female knows when something's wrong.
Yeah, well,
they know when something's going on.
We think about it a little bit more.
And a male does too. But a male is gonna sit down before he gets in the car and goes to the doctor. He's gonna sit down and just lay back on the couch.
Yeah.
I'm hurting. I'm relaxed today. I don't feel good. This and this and that. But the part that's hurting him, his wife is gonna tell him. That's when you're gonna get up and go to the doctor. So that's the part that's just like,
Yeah, well, like
totally.
I'm glad you brought this up because one thing I want to say to all the men out there: if you're over 40, go get checked for prostate cancer. Yeah. Go get checked. Wow, and it's like, man, I'm alright.
Simple blood test.
Yeah, it's just like it's simple, but a lot of men don't get checked for prostate cancer. And it's just like it's simple.
The girl that I was just telling you about, that my ex-girlfriend, that I remember waking up seeing, having a conversation with her, talking to her as well. Her dad just actually found out that he has prostate cancer, and it's funny because not funny, but like when he found out, and I was talking to her about it. I was telling her a story about you.
Yeah.
I was like, well, when she told me, she was upset, and they were upset. All of them, their family was upset, but it was just like me and her were talking, and she was telling me like about her dad having prostate
Give
cancer.
him his phone
And
number.
I was just
He'll
like,
be glad
do
to
you
talk
remember?
with him.
It's funny because I told her, I was just like, you remember me pumping septic tanks and all that, right? She was just like, yeah. I was just like, the guy, who owned it, who I worked with, he just got like he just had a surgery for prostate cancer and all that. And it's funny, she was just like, no, really? And I was just like, yeah. So like, don't just sit there and look at it as evil, as far as like, oh, now all the bad is gonna happen.
Yeah.
Just like, you have to understand that just like anything bad, the bad things that happen to people, there's a way to get rid of it.
Yeah.
There's a way to cure it. There's a way to help it. There's a way to understand it. And the Lord is going to help you. God's going to be by your side the whole time. As long as you believe and pray and trust in him, it's going to work out.
Yeah.
And I was telling her about how like you had your surgery and like you're good. Like, you're fine. You've been through all of that. It's not a life-ending thing is what I was basically letting her know. Because like, when people find out they have cancer, the first thing they're going to do is plan their life ending. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
you can't plan your life ending, but
and the thing is,
look at it that way.
And it was hard for me because, like, when people hear about prostate cancer, they say, well, if you're gonna get cancer, that's the one you want.
Yeah, because they say you could live with it.
Yeah, you can live. That's the one you can fix the most, the easiest, and keep on with life. But in my situation, having the blood clots,
right?
Before it was like, well, I had a simple hernia surgery, but then 3 weeks later I had the blood clots. So we were more concerned about having surgery and getting blood clots.
Right.
And so it's just, but then a lot of men, the mental side of it, and so it's a whole new world, of people. Yeah, you hear this, but men are suffering in so many different ways of dealing with it and getting over it. And just the thing that helped me was there was a community of men that reached out to me and really helped me through all the times, even now, helping me through this whole process. And and so like that's like just even doing this podcast, just want to be how would you say, a vessel or a connector to where we can connect to other people that's going through hard times just like this,
right?
And trying to help them through that whole process of just the whole uncertainty. And while we're talking about all this, I just want to give praise to my wife, because she puts up with a lot, putting up with me. And she's really helped me, because you guys see me, oh yeah, he's back bouncing up. But it's because of her. She's really helped me through this whole time, even then, now. And the fact that she's a nurse, she knows all this stuff.
Yeah. Which is one of the reasons why I was saying I wanted to ask both of you at the time. So now, Miss Mandy, I guess since after his first, so he's had his 2 surgeries, with the hernia and then the prostate cancer and all that. After his first surgery, before the second one, can you say that, do you feel like that changed anything about you? Like after he had his first surgery, did it change anything about you after the first one and the second one? And did anything change from the second one that changed from the first one?
Yeah, the first one, I was very, very busy. It was a very crazy time of my life. So I was a full-time nurse. I was homeschooling one of my kids, doing something in his business, so doing the bookkeeping. I had way too much going on.
Right.
So I look back and he's very gracious. He's saying that, I helped him, and I did, but, I could have probably caught that a little bit earlier. But I had so much going on in life, and it's like, I thought he had a cold, that night, cause he was doing some coughing, but now again, looking back, it's like coughing, just had surgery. But anyway, it's funny. But let me just say that, so that's kind of a blur. He did have a long recovery. We worked through all that, but I can tell my attitude from, so that was 2016 till this surgery. I hope it's apparent, but my attitude really changed.
Yeah.
So I became, and I went into this surgery and I actually prayed about it for a few months. God, help me to be compassionate and kind. I'm a nurse, that's expected of us, but when it's your family, it is different. So I prayed for a long time, several weeks, months. Help me to be kind to him as he's recovering. Help me to be patient. Help me to be, again, compassionate. And then that when he got, let go from his job, when he called me, and we kind of talked about this on a different podcast, but when he called me that he had let go from his job, I just tried to listen to him. And I just tried to be a friend. I didn't say any advice. I didn't, well, you should do this and this. I just, hey, we're going to figure this out. You just relax. And kind of like your friend said to you, just sit down and relax. I had to keep telling him that. And he would keep saying, oh, go get a job. No, you don't. Just sit down and relax.
Right.
Just relax.
Right.
It's all right. We're fine. And I think it really helped our relationship when I wasn't, trying to tell him what to do or you need to recover. You need to get up and do this. Hey, this is your body. And the neat thing about it is we both serve the same Heavenly Father who loves me individually, who loves him individually.
Amen.
And he has a relationship with God. God speaks to him. He speaks to God. And that's really what matters. It really doesn't matter what I say. So I pray a lot.
Right.
And God, you help him. God, you comfort him. God, because I would see a depression, coming over him, kind of like you dealt with too.
Right.
And I would see it and, hey, you okay? You got, let me know if you're battling that stuff. Just let me know and I'll be here to listen. I'm your friend. I'm here for you. And to me, that's helped. I hope it's helped, him as well, but it's really helped me keep things calm, not being anxious and worried about stuff. Then, now several months later, we have seen God provide every single step of the way. So it's just, my attitude is a lot different now. I'm not anxious. I'm not worried. I'm just like, God. So God has shown himself to us as our provider, as our peace, as our healer, as our comfort. And I go to him daily, and that's where I find my peace. 90% of my peace comes from my relationship with God. And that's just gotten stronger and stronger, especially, over the last 2 years. And so that's what my refuge is. So that's what I see as the big difference those years ago. I was so busy back then and didn't allow that time with God as much. But now I'm able to do that, and it makes all the difference in the world. So
that's good. That's good.
And Christopher, I want to say, just out of the bad, God created this whole podcast.
Amen.
To where now just reaching out and giving other people hope.
Right.
And so
it's a blessing to be here for me right now for the situation, because even to be a part of y'all's podcast, I can't express enough how grateful it is to just be in this position to reach out to others, to be able to express ourselves to others that's gonna help someone. You know what I'm saying? That's one thing that I've told myself for the past few years. Like, even when I was trucking, I was just like, man, I'm trucking, I'm making money, but just like, let's get rich. Let's do this, let's do that. So I used to tell myself all the time, I'm going to start a trucking podcast.
Yeah.
I'm going to start this trucking podcast, so I'm going to start this podcast when I ain't trucking. A podcast has always been one of my things that I think about. I'll be like, man, let's do a podcast. That way we could reach out to people. That way we could do this, we could do that. But it was never this type of podcast that I thought about. Okay. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, yeah.
Because I hadn't been through any, like I was saying earlier, it takes a person to halfway die for somebody to really understand. Sometimes yourself, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So beforehand, when I was thinking about doing podcasts, it wasn't to reach out to anyone. It was just a simple fact to get views and get money.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, we can get on this podcast and talk about anything.
Yeah.
We can get on here and cuss up a storm all day and try to get someone to watch it, and we're going to get paid. That's what I was
Yeah.
my views of it. You know what I'm saying? But then when you actually find a real reason to do something, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you
Instead of
talked about
just-
evangelism earlier. It's like there's all kinds of forms of evangelism, you know, and this is a
Right.
huge platform now. So it's like,
yeah,
but you can express, you know, just be yourself and express yourself in certain ways. Antonio is excellent at getting out and like talking to strangers,
Yeah.
and that's not my strength. But
yeah, and that's the thing with me. That's not my strength.
yeah.
Um,
But see, then you
But
find
it's-
other avenues.
yeah, you have to not saying like, oh, you have to, like, oh, you're forced to do this with this and this and that. But if there's something you want to do, if it doesn't work one way, you have to find another way to make it work if
Yeah.
you want to make it work.
Yeah.
So it's
Or-
funny
and,
because
and the other thing about God, he has such an amazing imagination.
oh yeah,
So when you talk to him and you ask him ideas, he'll start putting ideas in your mind and like, wow, this didn't come from me. This came from God.
yeah,
And so it's like, God, and that's how this started. We were going on these walks and let's pray. And God would start giving us these ideas. So it's just like we serve a very amazing, very smart
Right.
God that sees the big picture.
right,
And so he starts giving us these ideas and it's like, okay, yeah, let's try that. That sounds fun.
go off with it.
Yeah.
Well, and it's just like we've given our lives helping people, you know, on our jobs and as Christians. And it was just like how God developed all of this podcast. You know, it's like,
Right,
I mean, our daughter, she's helping us with everything, Noelle.
Mhm.
I mean, we're clueless. The first time I made a post on Facebook was back in June.
Mhm.
That's just how far and all the, you
Right.
know, and I'm like, but God opened this door, and I know He's gonna help other people and touch other people, but it wasn't. It was just out of that wanting to meet a need, you know. And I think as we as people trying to meet needs in life and help other people, that's where our destiny comes from, is reaching out and helping others.
right,
You know, Jesus went to the cross, you know, not because he wanted to. He went to the cross to help us be able to make heaven our home.
yeah,
You know, and so it's just, you know, he met a need when he didn't want to, but here it is. We're able to, you know, be saved and serve God. And now he's saying, hey, I'm cleaning you up. I want you to go out and do the same for others.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Well, Christopher, thank you. Thank you for coming all the way to Colbert.
Yes.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all.
Yes, really enjoyed it.
It felt good driving here. Felt like I was back in the day.
We got chickens since you were here last.
Oh yeah,
Uh-huh,
yeah.
We'll show them to you.
Oh, yeah. She got chicken.
He's afraid of the chickens.
you still ain't came cool with the dog.
Me and, me and Juno, we get along. We get along.
Y'all done got along now. That's
Yeah.
good stuff. That's good.
As long as he stay out of my room.
All right.
and
Let's
off-
end the
and off
podcast.
couch.
You gonna end it?
I'm gonna let you in.
Like and subscribe. No, thank y'all for watching. We hope this helped, and thank you again for Christopher for coming. We really appreciate it.
Yes.
always.
And I guess I'll end it.
See,
Well, hey, let someone know, because this stuff is real. You know, I mean, just depression, you know, just even people committing suicide, different things like that. You know, we live in a world to where we're not perfect, and we all go through different things. And so, you know, hey, help someone, you know, reach out and help someone, because this is what it's all about. And this is the type of community that we're trying to create as we're helping one another, whether you're saved, not saved, you know, go to church, don't. It's all about helping other people. And we thank you for listening.